Hello from Vilnius, Lithuania, and whole Europe. Hello to everybody. It sounds for me like a bit of welcoming words in the Eurovision Song Contest, but unfortunately it isn't it. For Lithuania, there never was this opportunity in Eurovision Song Contest to say hello, so that's why we're using online format and we're welcoming you in discussion organized by Vilnius University Student Representation. What kind of student movement do students need today? So this discussion is a part of whole week events dedicated to Vilnius University Student Representation 31st birthday and also for the International Students Day. This discussion will be held by me, Claudius Melis, former president of Vilnius University Student Representation and Arcus Alliance Student Council. So this discussion wouldn't be so international and not so in English without the members who are participating today with us. So first, I would like to introduce European Students' Union Membership Coordinator, Carmen Romero. Hello, Carmen. Yeah. Also, Lithuanian Student Union's board member and former president of Vilnius Gediminas Technical University Student Representation, Matas Povilauskas.
Hello, guys.
Also, I would like to introduce my good friend from Arcus Alliance Student Council, representative in Alliance, and also a vice and also a member of Italian student representation, Sofia Giunta, who is also studying human rights and multi-level governance in University of Padova, Italy.
Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we heard you properly. So, and last but not least, Augusta Grakavenaitė. She is our representative and chairwoman of Vilnius University's student representation in Faculty of History, and she's also studying history here in Vilnius. Hi, Augusta.
Hello, everyone.
And also, one member will be joining us. It will be Catalina later on, and I will introduce her after all. So, to start with, we're living in really different and interesting time. Now we're not contacting with each other and sitting on with online version of our talk and discussions. And this format is quite new and also really good for us to reach each other in a better time properly. But also during this time, Europe also has changed. We have various situations and events happening here. Also, students are facing a lot of different problems, issues, and also good and also benefiting from each other during whole time. And in this time, I think it's really important to understand and to have an overview what kind of problems students are facing, firstly in Europe, and this question will be for you, Carmen. So what kind of problems students are facing now in Europe? What the main issues? When I'm saying now, it doesn't mean that only with COVID situation, it's also all other different problems. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your question, and thank you again for the invitation. As you said before, we are living turbulent times, not just from students, but also for the elderly, for women, for migrants, and along, etc. And I do think this health crisis, this global health crisis, has basically worsening the inequalities that already existed in our societies. And unfortunately, many governments have used this health global crisis as an excuse to breach civil rights. So I do think, as to answer your question, that the problems related to the quality of education have also worsening because unfortunately we have had to change from face-to-face teaching and learning methods to online in a really short period of time with no proper preparation for learners, for teachers, and for the institutions itself. Many of them didn't really have resources to go through this transition so fast. And as well, many professors have been not just giving classes from their places, but also giving classes in the middle of a pandemic. And we've been students in the middle of a pandemic. So it's also something that it's important to relate with is the mental health of students. In ESU, for example, we were talking already about this before the pandemic, but now we see that in many countries, many students are facing this kind of issues because, of course, they feel either depressed or they feel afraid of what's going on. Also, the prospects of the future right now are not as clear as they could be before. And at the same time, participation, it's not as we could have imagined participation before. And the things that we were fighting for in order to have students in all levels and within decision-making processes, we have to rethink. So I do think the student movement that we need now, it's a really creative one. We need to rethink all the things that we were doing before, and we need to also see that participation and being able to be part of either a local union or a national union or even an international one, it's somehow a privilege. Not everyone has the opportunity to participate, and that's one of the biggest inequalities that we have as students and as youngsters. So we need, first of all, to understand what are the inequalities that we are facing right now that are structural and were coming also from before, and try to give an answer to that. And the problem is that this answer is urgent, but it's also necessary. So we need to have a real holistic view to approach the matters that are arising now. And in any case, I do think the student movement in all levels, local, national, even regional or international, we've been, all the students, all student representatives, we've been doing our best to try to cope with the situation. So I would like to give an optimistic message, even though the situation it's quite complicated.
Yeah, thank you of this optimistic approach of this kind of view of students, what kind of student problems students are facing, what kind of problems. I really liked one of the things which you mentioned. It's about the mental health of students, and I really know that Lithuanian Students' Union worked for more than a year with this subject, this specific area. So maybe, Matas, you could also describe a bit more what kind of perspectives and what kind of problems you see that Lithuanian students are facing, not only the COVID situation, those ones which will really held on really higher, like the mental health issues, but also what kind of different things you are seeing.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Carmen, for presenting all of this so fully. So, as we are a part of Europe, so we can just I can tell the same situation as is happening right here in Vilnius, in Lithuania. Yeah, from the mental health point of view, I would also like to mention that Lithuanian Students' Union were sharing the results of our research regarding the work of students. So this is definitely one of the huge I don't know how to present it, maybe problem. Because not now during the COVID, not only the students are sitting in front of their screens during the lectures, they are also sitting in front of their screens during their job, so basically it's very hard to keep stable mental health when you're sitting practically more than 12 hours in front of your screen and in the same room, basically, because you can't even leave it. So yeah, actually I really agree with Carmen's points on what's happening, and I would also like to mention that not only these issues are raising regarding the university's preparation for these kind of setups, it's also technical stuff. For example, before starting this in the lobby, we were joking that if you're studying social sciences, it's all okay because you're still doing it in front of computer and that's it. But not even that. It removes the very important aspect of the studies itself, the live discussions and live contacts with people. So the technical stuff that I'm mentioning is also this the human contact, not only the technical stuff. For example, for engineering studies. Okay, so yeah, definitely students unions will have to adapt to this new normal, and then we will have to look for ways to work with the assurance of study quality. And it was a huge pain for all the representatives before, and it's getting even harder to keep track of the quality at the moment. So yeah, definitely we will be facing a lot of difficulties during this time, but how it goes. Well, when we overcome these difficulties, we will come out much stronger as representatives out of all of this. So yeah, optimistic point of view as well.
Yes, Jay, I think you are people who are really optimistic, and so that brings also optimistical ideas, and we can think through about the future, what will happen and what we will be facing. So from this optimistic view, it's kind of a really good perspective, which we could broaden our minds. Sophia, I would like to ask you about this situation. Yeah, what I really know that your student movement in Padua is really those strong ones who are working with student problems. Can you also describe how your student union is working, student movement in your university, and what kind of student problems even before the COVID situation you were passing on, and also what you are working now? Also, hello to Catalina. I will represent you a bit later, and we'll ask also a few questions as I'm asking now, Sophia. So, Sophia, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. So actually, I can relate to the analysis that were done by my colleagues, and I will try to add something more. Actually, problems with web sources and the affordability also of studying away from the hometown of students was a problem that we tackled even before the COVID situation. We can call it that, because not only in Italy, I think it's also a common struggle. Not only in Italy, fees are really high for studying, and also rents for students who challenged university away from their hometown are really high. So all this situation, and also the lockdown here in Italy, has made clear how these problem, but also costs, are not possible to be there anymore. So this is what we challenged, and also I will have something more. I think that it is really difficult for us as student representatives to try to communicate, but also to try to let people socialize and gather and discuss about things, because of what Matas said. It is really difficult to have a deep discussion on problems, even though maybe people would be proposing also solutions, because it's a really mental struggle. So I think that one of the main problems that we have to overcome and to solve is the one of the tools, the methods on how to gather also new ways and new sources, new interest, and also will to discuss and solve the problems. And it's really difficult also to advocate for these solutions, because it's in person. We are we are aware of that. In person, you have way more. You wait more. You have the possibility also to advocate in a proper way. So this is a struggle for us, but it is a struggle also for students in their exam, in being heard. So we're going through a really tough situation, but I also think that this overall crisis will make us know and understand how. I talk also for the Italian situation, how funding in institutions and funding education in general is fundamental. Here we have had a really troubled situation with defunding education. So this overall crisis has give us the opportunity to advocate more for that, for funding education and make students comfortable with their university studies.
Okay, so thank you for also adding those points who haven't been mentioned yet, funding, fees, rents, costs which are emerging in this situation. For example, in Ireland, we have a big discussion on renting, as I have seen, which now student movements are facing over there. Also the COVID situation, and also those ones who had diagnosed COVID-19, how universities were reflecting and how staff was doing with that. But this will be a question also for you, Carmen, so you can be ready for that. Okay, so Catalina, I would like to represent you. So Catalina Changlin, she is now Vice President of ARCO Student Council and also a PhD in Social Sciences in Granada in Spain. So it's really nice to see you over here, Catalina. So the question is for you. So European University Alliances, the huge Emmanuel Macron idea of European University. Here just in one moment here was starting to work those kind of alliances, and student movement just become forming the student bodies, student councils in alliances. What kind of issues this kind of situation held, and what you see from your university and also from alliance side, what students are facing and student council are facing over here. So floor is yours, Catalina.
Well, it's just like very rarely seeing you this formal, Claudius. And hi, everyone. My name is Catalina. I'm from the University of Granada. And as Claudio already mentioned, I'm the current vice president of the student council at ARCUS. And also I am the representative in the PhD program in social sciences here to the University of Granada. And I'm not going to say like, wow, I'm in a big project, and indeed it is. I'm going to go from the local level and maybe moving to upward to the ARCUS, where me, Sophia, and Claudius, we are working for. And not from my perspective, from the perspective in general, I think just in the southern part of Spain, Granada, especially the metropolitan, the city of Granada, we have been confined for the second time since 2 weeks ago, and we are still under confinement. And but I still work. Because I have my own office, so I stay there, and I stay going like heading off my house every day. But I like normally I say I don't really experience the confinement because I'm kind of getting used to wearing the mask, and I try to socialize a lot, like going out clubbing, because that was the main problem for people to get the virus. And but just like structurally talking about the university is closed down, and the students don't go to classes, and we have lessons online. And just from the student perspective, like student council, we haven't celebrated any meeting, like either physical nor online, because I don't know, because I don't know the reason, because I talked with the president. I'm talking about the University of Granada. But just what I felt like from before is like we don't really have a very strong, just for the PhD student. Like I'm going to talk about only the student, like PhD student. Okay, so we have the tradition of paying attention more to the thesis, that we are writing a thesis is very important. So we do meetings like before, maybe once every 1 month or up to 3 months. Just if we have big issues, we get to gather together. But it was already very rare that we get to have a meeting. So, and after the confinement, like the state of alarm, we didn't have the meeting since March. And so I talked with the president, like just through WhatsApp, and she's saying that we need to get to meet up before we change the shift, because we are changing the shift for the next representative to take over the positions. But I haven't heard anything, and the president and the vice president, they are the one who are in charge of making the call. So so just at the local level, and I'm talking about the PhD level, it's like maybe not just in general, it's just maybe the president and the vice president, like we are doing at ARCUS, me and Lasse is the president and the current president, is like we need to push further, like to try to encourage like the other colleagues that we bear the responsibility, we represent the students, and we need to do something. And that's what we are doing at ARCUS. I'm coming upward to ARCUS, is that we see that it's very important that we gather at least once a month, and that's what we are doing. Then we just had a meeting like 2 weeks ago, and we are having another one in next 2 weeks. And we are kind of making certain points like very priority, like putting priority to some, like to 1 point to 2 points that we want all the representatives to think about it. And we have like 7 action lines about research, about student mobility, about coordination between universities within the alliances. And it's like certain people like should like acknowledge and assume that the responsibility, so to share that kind of bond among the other representatives. So far, maybe I would be adding like more points. So if we can discuss about this point, and I would like to have your point as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Catalina, for your words. Also, for those who are watching this discussion, you can ask questions on the YouTube channel. Don't hesitate. I think here are people who are really from various situations and various Europe sites, so they can answer you those questions which are really important for you from whatever theme it would be from your side. So, Augusta, I'm also really interested in how Vilnius University student representation is also seeing the problems which students are facing here in Lithuania and Vilnius. Also, from your perspective, what these kind of situations, the COVID situation, also those typical student problems which are faced and also with which student representation is working, what are they and which of them are most important for you to be done or to be spread on? So, thanks.
There's a lot of issues actually, and Matt has mentioned a lot of them because Vilnius University is kind of in Lithuania, and so there's a lot of the same problems like mental health. But the most important problem that we see right now is lack of motivation from students to study, to do something among their studies, and it's a huge problem that we are facing now, and that we will facing in the future. And there's a lot of like where students should isolate if they got COVID. We don't have apartments where they should isolate and where they should live, and of course financial status of them, like scholarships. We were working on them for a few years, and the COVID situation is making it a lot worse. And yeah, so that's kind of the issues we're facing right now. And of course, quality of education. We're going to be having a lot of lack of competencies, and the problem that we are not having live lectures and live discussions makes it hard to face and see the problems in the university, and we can't represent students very well because we don't know their problems, because we can't have live discussions with the students.
See, Carmen just linking by her head that yes, these are the main problems at this time. But also I see one of the problems which over the Europe is rising, I think, and it's next to our border, mainly the challenges of democracy. And I'm also talking about the situation of Belarus, where students are being held by police, been punched by police, where student ideas and movements and their democratical processes, which they're having in their own structural bodies, is also facing problems. So how we could help as from national perspective, Europe perspective, what kind of institutions could help, how we could manage all this situation. From my perspective, it's one of the because it's 50 kilometers from my home, so that's why it's really important. But I think it's important question to hold Europe, because it shows our perspective of how we as a strong European Union, who is gathering by the idea of active and young people who are participating whenever and moving through countries. And now our friends are facing problems. So how can we help them, and how we could challenge the democracy question through this time? So Carmen. We can't hear you.
Forgot. Thank you for the question, and thank you really very much for bringing this topic, because I really think that it's super important to address what's happening in Belarus right now in all the forums that we are able to talk about this, to raise awareness of the situation of the population, of course the students, because we are students and they are our colleagues, but the situation of the population in there, it's quite complicated. And indeed, there is a problem that this is not just about what's happening in Belarus, but it's a problem of what's happening within Europe and how Europe should respond to this kind of democratic crisis. This is a crisis that goes through the political institutions, and basically the population has been already demonstrating in Belarus against the government. and ESU, together with BSA and BOS, both the national student unions in Belarus, demand the Belarusian Ministry of Internal Affairs to free all detained students and stop the use of riot police, brutality, and detainment of peaceful protesters. We also demand justice for victims of police brutality and persecutions, and we called upon all the European higher education institutions and all the European higher education area to use all the international pressure on the Ministry of Education in Belarus in order to ensure that the rights of Belarusian students are protected. In fact, additionally, many of our member unions address their higher education ministries representatives to condemn human rights abuses in Belarus and to recognize that the Belarusian government is an illegitimate one. Unfortunately, this is not enough. We've been doing this since long ago now, since a couple of months now, and not that long ago, just this week, we found out that some of our board members are detained by the KGB, which is something awful, and it's something that it's really, I don't know, incomprehensible to even think or to talk about it, because of course, from our perspective, from the countries that we're coming from, it sounds really like that's another world, that's another universe. It's impossible that is happening in Europe, in the continent, in a place where we really think of democracy, of certain kind of values, of knowing how to build a democratic citizenship. And that's why I thank you again for bringing this topic. I think the best way right now is to, because of course we need to also acknowledge that right now it's not as easy as it used to be to just demonstrate. It's not like, yeah, you guys from your local union are going to decide to organize a demonstration to go to the rector office and to push the rector to like have a public statement against what's going on in Belarus, because unfortunately probably you cannot organize a demonstration, which is the most the fastest way to organize a protest. So what I think, and what is ESU has been doing, it's trying to address all the institutions and partners that we have to acknowledge what's going on in Belarus and to publicly state that they are against and that they condemn the violations of rights, of civic rights in Belarus. This is also, of course, not enough, and I would say that there's like nothing is enough right now, or anything that we could think would be helpful, but it is really important to push and to lobby for the institutions and the people that we know that have some sort of power to execute certain kind of activities, that we push to at least make the governments of the rest of the countries in Europe to condemn what's happening. Recently this week during the ministerial conference, many of the students from the ESU's board, but also many other students that were representing their countries together with the delegations of the ministries, they were lobbying, and many countries said that they were gonna support the statement against what's going on in Belarus. But there are still some governments that, of course, because of political games and political strategies, are not going to condemn it, because there are also a lot of interest going on in this. So at least as students, if you can join whenever there's something on social media, if you can support on social media, and if you can be aware of what's going on through the organization, youth organization and students organization, and share and raise awareness through the students that you have, because this is not just something that affects Belarus right now, but these kind of things cannot be a precedent used for like by other countries in any other occasion, in any other situation. So I think that's why it's important to have to be more united than ever now against these kind of violations of civil rights, and to understand that even though in our country it looks like it's not going to happen, well, we don't know. So it's better to be critical, it's better to be ready, and it's better to know that if something happened to us, we're going to be united and that we are going to have people supporting us.
Personally, Carmen, I'm really glad that your opinion is so hard on this question, and I see the strong position from your talking on this question. So it's really important to have this, because when we're talking about the democracy issue, about the human rights, we can't be unstable on this question. We have to be strong and united, because this is the Europe, and this is how, especially the students' movements. So
can I just add something? Because as an example, through this whole pandemic, something that has been happening, and I said that before, is that many governments have been using this as an excuse to implement laws that had nothing to do with the current pandemic, but of course it's a weapon for them to be more repressive. And I think it was this week or last week that in France there was a law passed by the government that basically from now on it's going to be forbidden for students to organize protests and to occupy, for example, campuses. There's nothing to do with that in the pandemic. Nothing. There's no point. Of course, no one is going to organize a protest right now. Even as a student, we know what's going on. We are not going to tell anyone to protest and to put in risk their lives because of the pandemic and because of the virus. But they don't care. I think that these things are happening, and we really need to be aware of them. And we really need to, at some point, when this thing is over, we need to remember what was going on, and we need to think about the past, but also about the future.
Yeah, so I see that Sophia is also linking with her head. I really know that you are studying human rights, and it's also a topic associated with that. So also really interesting this view of what Carmen is also mentioning, the implication, and also about our uniteness, uniting us as a student movements in different parts of Europe. Why it's so important? Why it's so important to go for human rights? Because not only question Belarus, not only question France, in Poland we can see the issues, in Hungary, in Lithuania, also whenever, in every part of Europe, this different things are happening. So how they are embarrassing student movements from your perspective, Sophia?
I think that this issue is fundamental, is key. I mean, also the recent facts in France, we've tackled them as a students' union and as a national students' union, and as Carmen was saying, many issues such as the Belarus one are important to be coped with. I think that we have two levels of understanding of this suspension of democracy and the right to protest, which is the first thing is how this affects directly students and what is our role in shedding light on this. I think that many students, many university students, unfortunately, are kind of disconnected with what is happening to other students around them. I mean, in Europe, also outside Europe, but this is a more complex topic and level of understanding. So our role in this should also be to let them know what happens. And here, the point that Carmen was making is fundamental. We have to be there to spread the word, to let people know what is happening. Unfortunately, mainstream media do not match this thing, and so we have also important and widespread tools to let people know what is happening right now in all of our countries and all the regions that we are involved in as student representatives, but also as I think human rights defender, because that's what we are. And the second thing is how we can cope with situations and how we can be together to avoid similar outcomes in our countries, and also to be let people like in Belarus or activists feel protected as student representatives. This is another issue. I think that given the tools that we have, there are internet, there are platforms, there are moments like this, so confrontation and sharing talks. I think that we can manage to be together in this struggle, because we can share ideas, and I think that this is fundamental. Trying to have more and more moments to think about these topics, and also to be aware of what happens, creates the grounds and creates the possibility for us to build a more complex web of relationships that when something really strong and difficult occurs, gives us the opportunity to have also a strong answer. So it is really a huge opportunity, even though we are in troubled times, but it's a huge opportunity also to be stronger together and to use the tools that we have to spread the words that I was saying, but also to build something that in other means or in other specific times we didn't have the opportunity to create.
Yeah, I think that's one of the points which should be mentioned after this discussion, that we have to be strong together, to be stronger for this kind of situation, that it really helps the online platform, and also through the social media and everything. Now it's more and more specific, and it's even more it has even more bigger role in everything. We could get in touch by every theme which is happening in every country, and we can help to each other. So also back to the situation, I'm interested if universities, student associations are helping in this kind of situation which Belarus is also facing, or even this kind of student movements. What are their face, what have done here, not only by ESU, but also by their neighbors as the Vilnius University and Lithuanian Student Union. So firstly, Augusta, then Matas, try to be short what kind of help maybe you have done or supported through this time, because a lot of ideas were mentioned by Carmen, so but also to hear what is done here.
So Vilnius University has done a lot and is doing, of course, a lot, because they are neighbors, and we have a lot of history with Belarusians, and we have established scholarships for Belarusians who were thrown away from their universities for expressing their thoughts and for fighting for their opinion and their freedom and their rights. We have Vilnius University have accepting Belarusians in our university to study here. And now, just a few days ago, Vilnius University Fund has funded like a project for Belarusian students and their researchers and professors, and everyone can donate to help them. So that's a few things that Vilnius University has done for Belarusians.
Okay, Matas, maybe you have to make additional points. Your mic is off.
Yep, sorry. Actually, yeah, it's well, on the behalf of Lithuanian Students Union, it's exactly what Carmen mentioned. The actions were pushing people's buttons in places that can have impact on this whole situation, and Yeah, one of the points that were not mentioned in this is actually the position of Lithuanian Students' Union on this, and we are working on making it easier for Belarusians to come to Lithuania. So if they decide to leave the country because of these happenings there, we should be able to open our borders for these people to come here. And yeah, actually, what I thought of a point when you were discussing the spread of awareness, and it's actually at the moment it's our main tool of how we can fight this. And I wanted also to point out that we should be really careful with this, because yeah, it's a lot of traffic happening in the social media and in our means of communication. So we have to be super careful with this. When it comes to communication, we should cherry pick the things that we communicate, and we should not create spam in a way, you know. So yeah, we must spread awareness, and we must be very strict about this kind of situation. But we still have to be careful, I think, because yeah, you know how it goes when we start spamming, and it unfortunately happens sometimes. So
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so thank you for this kind of topic. I think it's been talked a lot, but it also will be associated with the next theme about European Alliances Student Councils. It's also the new kind of form of student movement. There, 2 years ago, never has thought that there will be a student council who will be working in 7 different universities at the same time, and those student unions and student representations will be a one student council in Europe level. So firstly, I would like to see Catalina's idea of European student, how these student councils in European alliances should work, and what should be their position in European level. And then also I would like to hear Carmen point of view about how these kind of student councils has to be worked with, and also from the national perspective, because it's also associated with the national organizations and how they are getting in touch with those student representations who are involved in these kind of European alliances, because it's mixing our levels in which we particularly have worked. So, Catalina, what is your view about this?
Yeah, I would start from the problem that we have encountered since the implementation of ACUS in our university. Is that firstly, when the project was granted with European funding, so I think just more or less it was just a circle, like the staff and the person in charge in our case is our vice rector, Dorothy Kelly, and maybe no lot of people were expecting that we could get that grant, because there were like lots of alliances, universities competing, right? So it was like a gift coming from heaven. And it was a big booming for us to, well, just previously there had been like a lot of projects asking to go further, not just within the university local level, national level, but go further. And I think we are very fortunate to get this opportunity to participate with the different colleagues that we are doing now, because we are from different countries, and for example, the issues that the topic that we just that Carmen just mentioned here, maybe we are not being that aware of, but just through this kind of channel, the alliances, we can like gather like much more efforts to become stronger as student unions. So the problems we have is like, for example, I was elected because just the priorities because I could speak better English. Okay, so first thing, linguistic problem. So like here, like right now, we want to like to promote ARCUS within our university, but and our problem is first we have two different groups, PhD level and then master level and then undergraduate students with their own student unions. Okay, fine. So then how can we bring the entire community, the university community, up into the European or international alliances? The first problem we have, English. So if you can't manage to speak a good English, you can't join. And then people would just consider themselves being discriminated. So now we are working, like right now it's just me and just like a small group of us, like some staff from the ARCUS project. So this is the issue that's at local level we need to work, and I think it's something that all of us here we acknowledge it, right? And another thing is that so for the future is like one of the action lines we have in ARCUS, the multiculturalism and multilingualism. So what is English the lingua franca that we are going to like to promote for all the alliances works or future projects? Is that something that it's definitive? So we have to think about how to promote other. Right now we are promoting the other languages that other partner universities within ARCUS speak, and so more or less it's something that we can't, and I don't think that we can achieve maybe in 1 year or in a couple of years. But I think just a little by little we can just we can gain something, like at least. And then just I think just because ARCUS we are on our second year, so and just because of the pandemic we couldn't like work a lot before, because we had to adapt ourselves to the virtual meetings, we have to adapt ourselves to our new life because of the confinement, etc. So now we like the works we are doing here, like we are thinking about how we're going to overcome all the challenges that we are undergoing, right? So just bringing on the idea, just how we can bring the students like up to the European level. I think it's just the willingness and empathy, and also a kind of social engagement. It's like we don't we can't just the same as we are dealing with the virus. We can't defeat ourselves, and then just maybe or because the government wants us to do like to stay home, and we do it. Just for example, the one professor from the University of Granada saying, why if the students, because the students don't go to the university, fine, but where they go to the class, so they get the virus and then they get sick. So you have to tell the students to be empathetic with them and saying that if you get the virus, you're not going to get yourself sick, but you're going to make your family at risk, and your grandparents are the one who are going to suffer. So this kind of empathy is something that we should share like among us, like with the students, and also just trying to go further and to thinking about what kind of future we want. We just want to stay at within the national, or we want to like to become a true European citizen. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Catalina. Also, Sophia, what's your perspective? What's this kind of European alliances and this new student council? what is its role in the European level? Should the Alliance Student Council would be more involved into European Student Union or everything more? So.
Okay, so just trying to be brief. I think that first of all we should try to understand if these tools are also effective for us as student representative, but also as I was saying, as activists. So I think that one important gain in being part of an alliance, so one important issue that the alliances have made clear is that getting students to know other students around Europe is useful, and this specific talk we are doing I think is the evidence that that works. So I think that those issues and also the European alliances have the power and have in a longer perspective, in a longer view, have the possibility to reach the goal of being effective in their means. I also think that this ongoing pandemic situation is not helping in let us be really on focused on we should do. We have also many troubles with our national situations or universities problems to be solved. So it's really tough also to keep going. Also, Catalina was saying that the alliances are newly born, so it takes time. But I also think that, generally speaking, the point of view of students should be taken into account, and I think we have the possibility to let universities and the alliance be accountable in this. We shall try to propose topics, but I also think that we can also, while the alliance and the alliances in general are newly born, we can also try to shape the tools that we want to let students be heard. So to have the institutional overall picture, so that once a student raises its voice, it is heard inside the alliance. But this is up to the ones who are going to see it in the council sooner or after. This mandate, and also it is up to all the students, I think, in my personal opinion, all the students inside the alliances, apart from ARCUS, which are currently, in some cases, struggling with the capability of being heard. So we should, as students, we shall also try to push all the alliances in which we know people, in which also HAZU has its own unions to be capable of being heard and push forward innovative ideas to be effective.
Okay, thank you. Matas, Mate, I have a question for you. Do you think that national unions has to work specifically with those student reps who are involved into these kind of alliances, student councils, to work with their knowledge, to work with their specific ideas, to know what are the seeks and the goals of all alliances in which student councils are.
Okay, so actually at the moment there's no such thing, and it's not a very huge scale in means of these cases happening in Lithuania, but so I can't comment a lot on this. Of course, it's a good point to have, and we should invest more in training people for this. And then even though we are as an LSS, we are part of SUYE, but the knowledge sharing on this and preparing the professionals to go to the board meeting so we could be as effective as possible is yet another thing that needs to be addressed. So I think yeah, these topics should definitely be on our roadmap for 2021, but unfortunately, there's no movement on the side in LSS at the moment. So yeah, I definitely agree that this should happen, and there are many ways of sharing the knowledge and keeping it in one place so people could be trained, you know. But yeah, it would definitely help us to get a bigger picture of what's happening. So yeah, I'm actually taking a note, and then we'll discuss it internally. Thank you.
So quite good things for new teams and new ideas and for new years. And Carmen, I would like to finalize you with this kind of question about universities, these alliances and the student councils. And you have been working through the start of it, and ESO is participating, already participated in these two events, which were for student councils in alliances and student reps over there. So what ESO's idea is about these alliances and student councils in them? Should they be a part of ESO? Should they become members? Maybe. They should implement and give you feedbacks of how it's happening, or should you do trainings or any specific more ideas which you have and which haven't been mentioned? Because I also know that there is a new team and you were planning a lot about this theme, so maybe it's time to spread news. What's ESO going to do with this question?
Well, in fact, this is a debate that we've been having now for almost a year. I remember, in fact, in one of our last face-to-face event that we have in February, we were discussing about how to engage with the councils and the student bodies of the alliances, and of course it's a debate that we need to have within the organization, and our members need to decide the way that they want to tackle this challenge. In any case, what we are for sure doing is like being in touch with all the representatives that we know from the alliances. We've been part of the meetings that the Commission has organized, and we've been also developing different kind of informal channels with the representative of the alliances, and we do see that there is a need of capacity building for those representative students within the alliances, and we are more than open to help them anytime that they try to contact us or that they reach out. Something that I wanted to say, because it happened that when I was representative from my local union, when I was in Spain, I got the opportunity to be in the first student meeting of the Alliance, which is Una Europa. As a representative of my local union. And I do see now from ESO's perspective things that I was already seeing when I was a representative student from my local union, which is that in many cases we do see that even though there are alliances that they are really engaging with their students and that they're really listening to their students, many of other institutions, many of other alliances, either at the alliance level or at the university level, they are not really engaging with students. And this is always a problem because then you have either students' bodies or student councils that are not really representative from all the universities within the Alliance, because there are some students that cannot participate because maybe the rector or the vice rector in charge or the person that is in charge is not really informing those students. And there are no proper channels of communication within the students, or either at the Alliance level, any of the authorities don't really want to listen to the students. So this is for sure one of the challenges. But something that was I think Catalina mentioning before, it's also the linguistic barrier. And this is something that I already saw when I was representing my local union, that there are many students, for example, in my country, in Spain, they didn't really have the resources to learn a language such as English in a proper way. So basically, when it comes to participating in this kind of alliances or in this kind of spaces, they cannot, basically because they cannot speak the language, not because they don't know what is the initiative going about, or because they don't know what the university is doing or not, but basically because they cannot communicate. And that is a real problem, and it's not just related to the participation itself, but it's also related to at the program level, because what's the point of having an alliance if many of the students from the local unions and from the universities cannot really study in their mother tongue? Because of course the alliances, in order to be inclusive within Europe, it's offering programs in English, but maybe it's not being inclusive with the wrong students at the local or national level. So these are some of the challenges that I think you, as representatives of the alliances and as representatives of the local union, needs to be aware of. And I'm really glad that you've been already mentioning these kind of things. From MESU's side, of course, we're gonna be always open and pleased to help you. And as I said before, we've been trying to develop channels, and we are always trying to also push the Commission to have more meetings with the students, and to try to have meetings not just which the Commission is giving information, but also create comfortable spaces for the students to share best practices, or also to share critics, because that's the point. The Commission and the institutions that are involved in this initiative need to listen to the students, and they need to understand what are the problems that students are facing.
Okay, so thank you. We have a great question from Ugnis Neimantas. He's saying, hello guys, thank you for discussion. Talking about pandemic measures, it seems that lockdowns and distant learning is almost completely against direct students' interests and priorities. They are completely non-risk group in context of COVID, but it seems that student representatives do not question authorities' decisions and just comply with it. What are your thoughts on this kind of question? I think we have really different situations in different countries, and this kind of context differs. But I think it's about the most common question here is about the complying to university authorities. Is always student representatives should comply, or should find compromises between those sides? What you think? I really know that in Padua, when we firstly met with our student council, there was one of kind of strike order against the authorities of university and of this kind of question. So simply the question is, should student representatives comply, or should always just go with the flow, or should find compromises between two sides? What are your opinion on that? So, Sophia, you could start with this.
Okay, fine.
And then Augusta.
Well, actually, I think that also we should keep in mind that overall situation all around Europe are different. So we know that maybe many students' union tend to be more local, so it depends also on the approach. But to what is my personal experience, I can say that if something affects students in a really dramatic way, or I mean, no, dramatic is not a proper term, but in a strong way, we should advocate for them. So we should say to the university, no, you're not doing well, and also they should also happen with the governments. I can give 2 examples. For instance, here we have, it is true that we should strongly advocate for students, even if this means saying something to the university and to complain and to strike in a strong way. And that's an important point. Then we have compromise which can arise in between different rights of students that come into clash, that come together and are in. You have to choose on which side to let students be in a comfortable position. I give this example that can, I think, can be maybe useful for the person that was asking this. Here in Italy, we had a strong, and I think in many other situations, we had a strong lockdown in between March and June, so that nobody could go to the university labs, to go back to hometown, or to be in the city where he or she was studying. And so we had a strong actually violation of the rights to be educated, the rights of education, because we were given also lessons and courses only online, with many problems that had to be solved. But yeah, we couldn't find a different solution. And as student representative, what we did was to wait the rights of students in general. It is. I mean, it is really a sort of a swear word to say we have to choose which right was prevalent. But yes, the right to health was the main issue at that time. So we tried to cope with the situation and say, okay, we know that it is impossible for students to be in a safe environment right now. So we are going to work on the material conditions of students. And we worked a lot on, as I was saying at the beginning, on rent and in some cases rent strikes. We worked on online connections. We work on supplying computers, fast connections, and in trying to implement scholarship and to lower tuition fees. So sometimes it gets really difficult to balance the choices that you have to make as student representative. But I also think that this doesn't mean that you should be also and every time really in line with what the university or the government said. No, it's up to you. It's up to your choice. And it also, what really matters on also the outcomes that you get is how you perform and how you are accountable in your position.
Thank you for this answer. Augusta, please be short at the answer, and then we will move to the final question.
Yeah, so right now, like everyone, we are taking classes online, and it's because we can't risk anyone's health of having live lectures. We had in September and October live lectures, and it was because students wanted that in my faculty. But now it's the risk, and we have to make compromises with the authorities on taking lessons online, and it's not something we should consider because we can take risks, because we can take virus back home to our families, and it's the world we kind of live in right now, everyone. So we have to make changes, like libraries are working for us, but we have to make risks so we can live all happy and safe.
Thank you. You were really short on this specific answer to this kind of question. Regarding Justina's question, and also which we have on YouTube channel, and also to the main question of this discussion, we have touched different parts of European, national, regional, university, European Student Council alliances, and everything different student movement examples. Also different challenges which students are facing in this COVID-19 times, also about the natural habitats and these kind of challenges which are always on our topics. And here we have a question. What kind of students movement should be in the future, and which is necessary today? Here in every level, it's more orientated to quality culture in university, in working in student, in representing study programs, working with this kind of micro credentials and every different quality themes, working with the social academic initiatives, with consulting students, working with domestic documents, with the scholarships, everything? Or should student movements go to organize events, social business, organize to be responsible for dormitories, for restaurants, healthcare in their universities? Or should they do everything? Or should they do nothing? Or should they move with these kind of questions as Greta Thunberg showed us, just with green culture, and these kind of new movements who are just responsible for one but really important question in our society? So what is the role of student movement in our academias nowadays? So Matas, let's start from you. I see that you are really desiring upon this question.
Okay, so actually I gave it a thought before all of this, and I would be the advocate of the version of students representatives that are doing the consulting and social academic ideas, and then just to focus on the performance of the higher education engine in the university or the whole country. But why I'm telling you this is maybe it's because of the way I see things, and some people could say that it's a short-sighted approach to this, but I'd like to call things by their names. So if we are student representatives, what we do is represent students, and if we are doing green culture stuff, then we are a green culture organization. Okay, so that's just the way how I see things, and how I see this this particular moment in our time is very important for the future of these students representation movements. because now it's time to collect best practices and to grow our professionals in this field, because it will change dramatically as I see the things. And right now, it might seem that to implement any change, it might take more time than what we were used doing before. But in the future, with this kind of remote setup and changes that could be implemented in these setups, I believe they can happen a lot faster than it's happening now. So if we are able to grow a culture of student representatives that are professionals and are focusing on the pure matters of students, and actually answering the question before of questioning the university authorities on their calls, I see this as a pure purpose of student representatives. They should be questioning every decision that they are making, and not to see the university or higher education institution as an enemy, but just be critical, just be reviewing everything, every steps of the management team, and just making sure that these changes or these decisions will benefit students in best way possible. So of course it's a huge task, and it might take a while, but I see this time as a time of constructing our knowledge bases basically, and then getting the best practices in order, so we could be remote student representatives in the future.
Thanks for your opinion. Also, don't hesitate if you think that we don't need any student movement in academia. You also could say that it's your opinion upon this question. So, Catalina, I know that sometimes you're a really critical person. So,
No,
okay, I'm joking.
Today I'm very tame, okay, because we are on like stream on.
Yes. So, what's your opinion on this question?
I think the student, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, okay? Just either the student representatives, the council, the union, the anything, or a bunch of people representing students, or at the same time the student movement. I think just everything which it's about how to make student life within the university better is necessary, and it can't never be undervalued. But the problem, I would not call that a problem, but just different countries have their own culture for this kind of student representatives. Because just previously at our meetings of ACUS, I learned that student representatives from France or from some other countries, they get paid. Okay, so here as student representatives, we are kind of being like volunteers, and so it's different. When you get paid, it's you are professionally speaking, so it's your responsibility to make things better. But when you are saying that it's something that you do because you want, and then you don't maybe, and they say that we could get some credits, but for PhD students, the credits don't sell anything. Okay. So it's like we do. Maybe people say that they want that's good for for the future competitions for a position or for to get a job at university. Okay, fine. But I think just willingness and just putting ourselves because we are still students, and what we want, and it's what other students want, and those are their needs. So we want, if we take the first steps, the university authorities, they take into account And I'm not saying that make a big protest or like going on the street and just to make like a very strong protest. Okay, just if you speak up and you say that what we need is this, and you are making their vision much more clear. So just for that, I think no, just for the students here, like for the student representatives here at the University of Granada, but just I'm speaking also for the alliances that are working for the for all the students of all the universities within their alliances, that we want that as students we don't just go to lessons and we get our grade and so then we just go until work, because we want our life just while we are studying, we can enjoy the learning, quality learning, and also that we are learning that we are human beings. We have our own rights. So we want to be treated with respect and with what not just because you are going to solve a problem when the problem is there. Just like COVID, no one ever thought of online teaching, and there was a big chaos like in lots of countries, and just because professors previously they thought that they just neglected all the time the online teaching. Some of them just for example, okay, or maybe the elderly ones they didn't really want to do the online teaching. Then the COVID made them aware that online teaching is necessary, and you have to teach with like with quality, not just giving a lesson online and with lots of technical problems. And I think just I'm going to praise my university. That's just at the first moment they take all the measures necessary just for like giving out SIM card for people who don't have internet to be able to join the lessons online. Just they took care of us. But how they noticed our needs. Just one of the components, the organs, just they had to consult was the student council, or just some representatives for the students, asking them, or maybe just sending out questionnaires to ask students what you need. And I think that's the point that we are here as student representatives, because for the little thing, like down from the little things up to big, like the issues that Carmen mentioned just for the protest because of the government imposition in Belarusia and Belarus. Sorry, I'm just coming back to Spanish. And so just to end up with my sharing is like we are necessary. So just any kind of movement, if we stand together and we share our idea and we want to go further and we push out, we don't push, we just want to do it. I think we will just in the end we just achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Catalina. Augusta, what do you think? Does the student movement should be more social academic orientated into his initiatives, more oriented into quality culture, or even social businesses, or all together? So bringing the question once more here.
I think it should focus on social academic questions, and it will be more and more important after the pandemic, like studies quality, like what kind of online studies we will release to the world, how we should integrate students to live lectures after they spend like most of the year online, and how we should motivate students to participate not only in lectures and go to university in live audience, but to do something more and to find motivation to work for students in the future. And that's the questions and movement we should be looking forward to. And I think the movement should not only be the students' representatives, but all students should talk about those problems, and it should be independent and united, because when we are united, then we can make some difference. And it's the history student talking about, and because we can look from the future, from the history, like I can't think of the examples really fast, but we should be focusing about improving students' life after the pandemic, because after it's finished, we don't know what kind of students will come to the live world again.
Okay, thank you. Sophia, what are your thoughts upon?
One last thought, also because I can really relate to what I was said. So I was just had that we have a tiny little thing to do after and inside these troubled times. We just have to build the future of society. So I think this will be the main what we will be tackling, because it's a really a completely wide change that we have to focus, not only as students but also as a generation. So I actually think that the academia without the understanding of the environment we live in would be just helpless. Would be. I'm not meaning that is not useful, because we are university students for a reason, but we have as a student movement and as student representative to understand what is outside. So I think that both of these two fundamental patterns, venues, should be on our roadmap, and we should try to let students be future, not only future professors or workers, but also good citizens. So this is our main goal, and we should try to follow all the paths that we are seeing and the understanding to do so.
Thank you. And Carmen, you're finalizing this opinion and overview of student movement, and I think that everything is happening from our country, from our university, and happening till the Europe heart, Brussels and European Student Union, who is responsible then for all of us what we are doing. So what is your thoughts about the student movement in the future and after this kind of situations, which all were mentioned here, because even worse challenges could happen, but we optimistically viewed everything and thinking about the better future. So what are your thoughts?
So I don't think there is just one right answer to your question, because before you were giving options like, should we focus on social issues or academic issues or the labor market? And as I said, I don't think there is just one right answer. I think we as students need to have an intersectional approach. First of all, there won't be students nor universities if there's no planet. That's something like if there's no planet, there's no discussion. Like it doesn't make sense to have a discussion on what's coming after, because and that's why we need as students also to focus on things that go beyond being just a student. And this leads me to my second thought, that is, right now we are students, but we are not just students, and that's why we need to have an intersectional approach. For example, in my case, I'm a student, but I'm also a woman, so things related to women policies are affecting me right now and are going to affect me in the future. But also, if I would be part of the LGBT community, there were also other things, and if I would be a Black woman, there would be other issues affecting me as well. And something that is also that we can learn from the pandemic is that everything is really interconnected, and everything, like, we live in a really globalization world. So basically, I do think we need to have a vision, a holistic vision about what do we want to for students right now, but also for the upcoming generations. And we need to think as well that the role of the universities and the role of the higher education institutions, it's also a social role. There won't be, if there is not enough resources for example, researchers, then we couldn't even imagine about having a vaccine for the virus. So we really need to think about the university in terms of the role that the university can play within the societies. And also we need, for example, we've seen now that a couple of years ago, when some people were saying, yeah, that the world would be easier and we would use less transport if we could, like, work from home. Many people could have been working from home since long ago, and maybe that could have been better for the planet, but also for their lives. And anyway, people like biggest enterprises and so on, they were saying, no, it's better if everyone goes to an office or everyone goes to the factory, etc., etc. And the virus has proved that we can work from home. And nothing happened. Like, we're still being productive. Like, the sun is rising every day, no matter what. So I do think there are valuable lessons from these times, but also, of course, we need to be critics on the way that we analyze these phenomena that are happening right now. And in any case, as I said before, I do think we as students need to have an intersectional approach and a holistic view in order to give answers to the problems, not just for the students right now, but for the upcoming students, but also for our future as whenever we finish being students, because we need to have prospects. Right now, many students and people, even when they finish university, what they're facing is a precarious reality. There are many people that are having more than one job because it's part-time job, and even having 2 or 3 part-time jobs or mini jobs, they're not even getting 1,000 euros per month. So they cannot get independent, they have to live with the parents. There's not going to be a proper society as our parents, for example, were living their lives, if we don't build prospects, and if we don't build any kind of stability for the people, for the upcoming generation, but also for our generation. I think we are the perfect example of the consequences and the outcomes of the previous economic crisis. We're still facing many of the dramatic policies that were implemented by then. And this is the time to learn that it's about our lives. It's not about any product. It's not about just the money that we need to invest or that we need to spend. It's about our lives. It's as we were saying before, some of you were saying before, we are representative students to make a student's life better. But we should be also citizens, and we should exercise our citizenship to have a better life, not just as students, but as citizens and as a part of a bigger society.
Yeah, so I'm really glad upon the ideas and what I heard through this really strong and I think really important discussion to remember who we are, who student representatives are and why they are. It's always good to ask this question for ourselves, to remember the organizational values of ourselves, values as a citizen of some country and city, also to build the prospects. I really liked the idea of what we heard here, to not to forget that we are not alone. We have friends doing this kind of international field, national field, who are here and also facing same problems, just from different perspectives, and they could help for each other. The discussion before was about the mobility, and we also were asking questions about student representations over there, and every student representation was from Arcus Alliance was established at the times which country faced democratical issues. For example, in Grenada in 70s, 70s between 80s, in Leipzig in 1989, in Lithuania in 1989, when the democracy and those in this kind of hard times. So we are for those hard times, to see those kind of problems, to face them, to rely on them. Sometimes it needs to be clarified. Sometimes it needs to be uncompromised, but we have to help every student to be heard, despite any place, university, program level, university level, regional, city, country, or even European. So student movements are for that, and the forums, it's on their own how they are managing it. And today I'm really thankful for Carmen from European Student Union, for Matas from Lithuanian Student Union, for Catalina from Arcus, and also from Granada, Sofia from Arcus, and also from Padova, Italy, and for Augusta from VUSA, Vilnius University. It was a really nice discussion, and this topic I think could be talked a lot. And this discussion was the last one for VUSA 31st birthday and International Student Day on this week. We had topics with new elected people to Lithuanian Parliament, talking on education and values, and also the seeks and goals. We had talks about mobility and widening Arcus and participation, and also student involvement and participation in this kind of activities. So thank you that on these specific times during this you helped and also could participate in this discussion. So I'm really thankful and wish you good health and stay cool. So thank you, my friends all over the Europe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you all, and thank you, Claudius. Thank you to also the Students' Union.